Well, hey there.
Let's touch and go for a second there, but I made it.
Oh, good. Well, what can I say? You were watching at the moment a video of us explaining that you're listening to a free audio only transmission of tonight's show. How that is beyond our comprehension, but here we are, and we're happy to be here. Is all I can say. I'm Gary Lambert. He's David Gans. This is our usual halftime show. You would normally be seeing this on the free video preview of the second set, but instead you're getting an audio transmission of the complete show for free. And that's an anomaly. It's not the normal thing, but as I said, we're happy to be presenting it. And you just heard the first set. So shall we run it down?
I have it written down right here, Gary. They opened with The
Very
Music
good.
Never Stopped, went right into Dire Wolf, Beautiful Friend of the Devil, Foolish Heart, They Love Each Other, West LA Fade Away, Lost Sailor, and Saint of Circumstance.
Right. And we are here on behalf of nugs.net. And I can tell you, by the way, that things will be back to normal on the front of you being able to access the really beautifully mixed audio of this show by John Altschiller, which usually comes out a day or so afterwards. You can stream or download that in a variety of formats. There just won't be video of this one available, but the audio is always pristine. The mixes have been great. So we look forward to bringing you that. And we certainly expect to be back on the full video at Citi Field for the finale of the tour on Friday and Saturday.
Which is 2 shows, Friday and Saturday. I'm so looking forward to it. It's been such a great tour. Every show, there's been just one or two of the slightly rough spots, but it's just been huge energy, great jamming, a fantastic coherence among these souls. And they're 7 years into it, so it shouldn't be surprising that such great musicians are making such great music together.
That's absolutely right. And we'll be sorry to see it end, but we are going out with a bang. We have a great guest tonight, and then on the weekend we are going to have 2 really great guests. We'll let those be little surprises to you, but we are so excited about it, and we're going to do a while. Is all I can say. And speaking of doing things in style, shall we bring in our guest?
Do we need to say a little more about Nugs first, or do we
Well,
just go visit nugs.net and look
yeah.
at all of the plans available? They have a streaming service. You can subscribe to the entire Dead and Company tour on video. You can download audio in tremendous variety of formats from a tremendous variety of artists. There's a free trial available of the streaming service from nugs.net, which is, by the way, the only live music oriented online streaming service. And God knows we love live music. So that said, let us now bring in our guest. She's got an amazing history, a fantastic human being, and a brilliant musician. And I'm looking forward to introducing her to you. She's from a band called the Ace of Cups, and her name is Denise Kauffman. Welcome.
Hi,
Hi.
everybody.
Hey,
I'm so
Denise.
glad to be here.
So
That was
good
an
to
Good
see.
to
amazing
have
set.
you.
Yes,
Thank you.
so glad you enjoyed it. We certainly did. We've been enjoying this tour, and I know you go way back with some of these guys, the founding members of the Dead. The Ace of Cups, the band you were and are in, was right there at the dawn of the San Francisco music scene. You were an all-woman band, which was a very rare thing in those days. Not just a woman singer fronting a band, but women who played their own instruments and wrote their own songs. Uh, in what was really kind of a boys' club, and so it was quite an accomplishment
Yeah.
back then. It's kind of an accomplishment even now in this world. But Ace of Cups has been doing it for a very long time, and I was so delighted. You put out your debut album 50 years after the band was founded, which really speaks to the old I Ching hexagram, perseverance furthers, I think.
So how did that all happen?
Well, in the original incarnation of the band, we just never got offered a record deal. I think that some of the labels, that couple of labels checked us out. I think they didn't really know what to make of five hippie women who all sang, wrote their own songs. You know, we weren't like a one singer that you could focus on fronting a band. And they just took a pass on us.
But you were playing
And
all the great venues and co-billed with all these amazing bands. I mean, you were on the bill when the band played their first gig as the band. How cool is that?
yeah, that was incredible. That was at Winterland. And that was, I was such a huge fan of the band, and that was their first show as the band. And it was a legendary show because that was the night that Robbie Robertson wouldn't come to the gig on that first night. And Bill Graham and Albert Grossman had a huge shouting match backstage. We played the opening set, then the Sons played, and then those guys were just screaming at each other because the band wasn't there to play their set. They ended up. You didn't know that?
Well, Robbie Robertson wasn't Robbie Robertson hypnotized into playing?
Yeah,
They had,
that's
like,
what I heard about.
Yeah.
That.
So he was supposedly not feeling well. I think he was afraid. You know, they never, from the time they recorded their Big Pink album, they didn't play in public at all. They were just at the house recording that album. And so the first show that they ever did as the band was this giant show at Winterland. And
But let's talk about the Ace of Cups, and let's talk about you. You also did time with the pranksters and stuff too. We have like half an hour, and I want to get all this cool stuff into so people can know
David.
about you.
So I went to my last 2 years of high school. I was born and raised in San Francisco, but I went to my last 2 years of high school down in Palo Alto at a girls' school down there. Called Castellea. It's where Grace Slick went. But my first year, I was a boarding student. In the second year, a day student. And we had a little apartment on University Avenue, and the Tangent was at the end of that street. So really, my junior and senior year, I spent a lot of time listening to Jerry and then the guys before they were the Dead. And they're the jug bands and the and also I was really into the Zodiacs, which was Pigpen's band. And when we had a graduation party, when my friends and I had a party for graduating high school, that's the band that I hired. So Pigpen played my graduation party.
Wow.
In 1964.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's fantastic.
So yeah, I go back with those guys. And then of course, on the bus, Mountain Girl and Bobby and I were kind of the three youngest people on the bus, other than the Kesey's kids. You know, we were all like 18.
Right, and tell the folks your prankster name.
Mary Microgram, given to me by Kesey. I don't know how that happened. By the time I went to live at La Honda, that's what I was already called. So,
And
I
you lived up there? No, you lived at La Honda for a while too? Wow.
Yes, I lived at La Honda for that, from when I met Kesey and the Pranksters at the Unitarian conference at Asilomar. That's where I was going down with the band that I was playing with, which was some guys from Berkeley called The Answer. And we drove onto that conference ground and saw the bus, and life was never the same. That next week, Kesey came and got me. I was going into my sophomore year at UC Berkeley, and he came up to my apartment and said, "You're coming to live at La Honda. Come on." So I did.
Really? You dropped out of school to go live with those guys?
Yeah, I
Wow.
did. Finished many years later, but yeah, that was and that was and my first year at Berkeley was the free speech movement. So that was a pretty tumultuous year too, getting arrested. And I was real active in the free speech movement. So my college career definitely needed to kind of get rebooted much later. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And aside from, the incapability of the record industry to see an all-woman band as nothing more than a novelty, you were utterly respected by your musical peers. We know this. We've heard the testimony from Bay Area musicians who always loved the Ace of Cups. Jefferson Airplane had you sing on their Volunteers album. And you received praise from none other than Jimi Hendrix, I recall.
Whoa.
Right.
You played with him
Yeah.
at a show in the Panhandle of Golden Gate Park.
Yeah, we opened. There was just on the flatbed truck that belonged to the airplane. We just us. We played, and then Jimmy played. It was the week after Monterey Pop Festival, and he really wanted to play in Golden Gate Park, and he stood in front of us and took pictures the whole time we played. And we sure would have liked to have seen those pictures. But he was good friends with Buddy Miles, and Buddy and he were standing in front of us, and the Electric Flag, which Buddy Miles was at that point the drummer in, they had put their band together and rehearsed at our house for the previous couple of months in Mill Valley. And so, yeah, so we were close to the Flag guys very much. So Michael Bloomfield and Nick Gravenitis, and Buddy actually moved into my bedroom, which made me move upstairs.
But he took up a lot of room. So.
He did. And he took over had more stuff in the closet than I did. I had to like move everything out.
So how did it happen that Ace of Cups didn't make a record until 50 years later?
Well, we never really were offered a serious contract. I mean, at the very, very end, Fantasy offered us a little contract, but they wanted all our publishing. And, I had worked at Fantasy actually, I was working at Fantasy when the Ace of Cups got together, and we used to practice there. And John Fogerty and the Gollywogs, later Creedence Clearwater Revival, John and I were the only young people that worked at Fantasy. And I kind of watched what happened with his publishing when Saul Zaentz took over from Max Weiss and Fantasy. And I knew that we didn't want to go with Fantasy at that point because, we saw that. So that wasn't really an option. And then at a certain point, the band, we just went different ways. We were having children, and it was just harder and harder to, it was such a cycle in those days. If you didn't have a record, then people didn't really hear you beyond your local area. So you couldn't tour and draw people because people didn't know who you are. So it was this catch-22. And so luckily for us, some live tapes that had been saved from, just from stage recordings, Alec Palau gathered those together in the early 2000s, right? And he released a record of just our random live tapes that we had just saved for our own, they weren't recorded well or anything. They were just from the side of the stage, and we saved them for our own edification or education or horror, however you want to say. But we had those tapes, and from that, there was a live album released on Ace Records out of England, or Big Beat was the sub-label. Right. And then a fellow named George Wallace in New York, who had a boutique label called High Moon Records, heard that music and reached out to us. And we played Wavy Gravy's birthday party in 2011, and George came. And out of that, he started really supporting us, first just to play together again. And then we were writing so much, and he just finally said, you need to go into a studio. So since then, in these last 3.5 years, we have released, our third record is coming out in the next few weeks. And we released a double album in 2018 and another album in 2020, and the next one will be out. And who knows what will happen after that.
And how many of the original band members are in this band?
4 of the 5.
Wow. That's wonderful.
That's
yeah.
That's a quorum. You've got a quorum there. Yeah. It's really an indication. I alluded to how much you had the respect of your peers. That really came out on your album because a lot of your friends from back in the day chipped in on that album. Bobby Weir is on it, and Jack and Yorma, and I think David Freiberg and various others who were in the heart of the San Francisco scene all chipped in on your album. And that must have been extremely touching to you.
It's thrilling. Buffy St. Marie, Taj Mahal. People who we loved and admired, Steve Kimmock, Melvin Seals. By the way, David Gans, may I thank you, because the album that's coming out, the EP that's coming out in the next few weeks, August 5th, actually, on Baby Come Home, which is a song that I wrote back in the day. David Grisman is playing on that, and you're the one who made that connection for us.
No, I'm so happy that
Well, you
worked
didn't
out.
know. So George Wallace wanted to make sure that I thank you, and I really do. We love having David on Baby Come Home, and also Sid Page plays fiddle on it. So that was a real
Oh,
the great Sid Page from
fantastic.
Dan Hicks and his Hot Licks. Denise, I had the immense honor of being at your New York debut, also 50 years after the fact, in support of the then new album. And it was such a beautiful event. You were so rapturously received by the New York audience at the Mercury Lounge, and the great Lenny Kaye from Patti Smith's group sat in with you, and I got to preside over a panel with you and our friend Jesse Jarnow and various others from uh, the jam band. They were great. There were some young people from the jam band world who were so in awe of your presence to be there with you, and it was a lovely thing. And I think I said at the time about your album, wouldn't it be great if Ace of Cups 50 years later won the Grammy for Best New Artist?
Yes, and that was an interesting whole thing. We that was also a headline in Billboard magazine asking that very question, and then the Grammys we submitted to. I mean, we didn't think we would win, but it would have been fun to be in the race. And then the Grammy committee eliminated us. They wouldn't let us even run for it because they said we had too much notoriety back in the day, which wasn't true. And that was our first album. And it was everything they said was so incorrect. And I wrote back and said, no, you're wrong. We didn't have an album. We didn't have a record deal. This is our first album. Mm-hmm. And then they wrote back and the guy said, well, what do you think it would look like if we said, and for Best New Artist, and then there were these women that were like,
what how it would be the coolest fucking thing,
right?
Right.
It was like sexism and ageism never went anywhere, at least with the Grammys.
Right. Well, count on the music industry to do the wrong thing,
Right. Well, thank heaven for live music and the Grateful Dead and Dead and Company, right?
Amen to that. Yes.
Indeed. Well, speaking of live music, when the new album is out, will there be some live dates, a return to New York, perhaps, or some other touring?
Well, we'd sure love to. Right now, we've got one family member not well for one of the members, and so we sort of got some domestic, I don't know, early in the band, we had babies, and now there's husbands that need taking care of. So it's just how it is, but we'll see what happens. But in the meantime, we're really excited to release this music. The song "You Don't Understand," which just came out actually this last week. David Brown, who wrote the book, what's the So Many Roads, the Grateful.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Good friend of ours.
So David is doing an art feature on us, on our an overall career feature in Rolling Stone that should be out any time. And with that will be the premiere of the song "You Don't Understand," which David Freiberg is actually singing on with me. It was a song from that era, that time. It was a song I wrote. The Ace of Cups didn't ever do it then, but we wanted to do it for this EP. So there'll be a new video that goes with that. So we're all in different places. I'm in Kauai, and Mary Gannon Alfiler is in Kauai. Mary Ellen is in Weaverville, California, and Diane and our keyboard player Dallas are in Marin County. So even though we're far apart, it's really great to be able to release some music and also some videos and things that we're doing.
Great, looking forward to it.
What did you do with yourself in the years in between? What else has happened in your life since all that?
You mean 50 years or just since pandemic?
Either or both.
We have a little family farm here in Kauai. Actually, it's about a half a mile from where Bill Kreutzmann's farm is, on the North Shore. We've had this farm since 1981, but I moved here. I came here in 1963 to learn how to surf and spent the summer here, and then was kind of drawn back and came here when the Ace of Cups broke up. And one of some friends of mine started a private school here, the really great private school on the island is called Island School. And we started that school 45 years ago, and it's now got a 40-acre campus and 400 plus kids. And so, I worked on political campaigns here, played music with all kinds of different people, sometimes with my bandmate Mary, who was here, and sometimes with other folks. But, and then ended up teaching yoga. I went to LA to go to music school and ended up teaching yoga, which was my personal practice. But my daughter was in high school and I couldn't play out at night and be a good mom. And so I ended up teaching yoga to, a lot of like Quincy Jones and Kareem Jabbar and Madonna and Sting and all kinds of Jane Fonda. So I was kind of got to be this yoga teacher, just word of mouth, for some years. And then I was playing music in the yoga scene, which was the kirtan music, which is call and response chanting, mostly in Sanskrit. And I got to play with some amazing players, C.C. White doing soul kirtan and Jai Tal. And anyway, so I got to play music in that world. But the thing that was always missing for me was that I'm a songwriter. And so that world never afforded me that opening. So it was really a huge gift. I told George, who our record label owner, George Wallace, that it's like all of these songs that we had were like little children that the world never got to meet. They were like in the closet, and so being able to release these records on High Moon has been to let this music finally be in the world and let these songs go out and let people hear what at least some women were feeling and singing and saying it in those days, because there's not much of it, original music.
Indeed.
So I think, yeah. So it was a thrill to, and it still is. I'm really excited. The songs that are coming out on the EP, it's called Extended Play is the name of our EP. And we were
how
talking.
many songs?
Huh?
How many songs on the record?
I'm thinking I think 6 or maybe 7. Yeah.
Great.
Extended play, it's like, that's what Dead and Company's doing. And that when you look at all of us that have been around this long, that are getting a chance to extend our play.
Yes. Well,
really, really, really great. And,
yes.
and, just, thankful for health and well-being and, for all of us that live in such a way that we take care of our health and our bodies and everything. And, my old buddy, Bobby Weir, is a real inspiration with that, just like, stay in the condition that you are so that you can keep doing what you love,
Bobby is definitely hitting the gym all the time. I just saw some clips of that this afternoon. And I also have to say that living on the North Shore of Kauai has to be good for your soul. I've spent time there over the years. It's one of my wife's favorite places on earth. And in fact, I just barely missed getting to see you there on our recent visit. But just at that place, the farmers market and, everything about the North Shore is just so wonderful. We basically had a reef right outside our door and stuff. So I'm sure that place is great for your health, your mental and spiritual and physical health, because it sure is good for mine.
Absolutely. I have a yoga studio on my farm here. And so normally, if it's not a pandemic, I'm teaching here and practicing here. And we have a lot of trees, and we have given, like during the pandemic, we just harvested thousands of pounds of fruit and took it to the food bank. So that was kind of one of the devotions, that we did all during the pandemic, and still we give a lot of food away. I mean, it's a little organic farm, so yeah.
Well, Denise, where can people learn more about Ace of Cups? I know you have a presence on social media, on Facebook and Instagram and all that, and an official website as well. So I just want to advise people to discover this music. The Recording Academy's misguided opinions about what constitutes new aside, I would say go behold Ace of Cups as though they're a brand new band because the music sounds brand new, and you know you will be availing yourself of something wonderful. Please check out the Ace of Cups.
Thank you. Thank you
And
so much. And we're at
thank you for being with
aceofcups.com.
us.
That's our
What? aceofcups.com?
thank you for aceofcups.com
All right.
and Bandcamp for the new record. And it'll all be out in vinyl in the fall, but all the vinyl's backed up because of
Right.
because of the resurgence
Supply
of vinyl,
chain
which we love.
issues.
Right.
That's right.
All right.
Well, we'll get you on our radio show, Tales from the Golden Road, when at the appropriate moment, and we'll play a track on that
Wonderful.
show. And it'll be lovely. It's great to talk to you today and see your
Yes.
face. And thank you for being with us.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you
And
for having me.
we'll take it back to the stage now. David and I will next see you from I'm in New York City. The band will be in New York City in a few days, and we will see you there for the final weekend of the tour. Thanks for joining us tonight, and enjoy the rest of the audio feed of tonight's show.
And thank you, Jacob Lima.
That's right.